everyone, and welcome to another episode of Theater Makers Interviews. This week, my guest is Liz Yerkovich. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Ty?
I'm doing very good. So we will start at the beginning. What was your first theatrical experience?
I think like many people, a lot of us get the bug really early. I think mine was in elementary school with the winter program. And the winter program, I grew up in a small town in Colorado, and they really got into the spirit of winter. And the winter program was huge. And I do remember, singing the carols, and each class had a specific thing where they would actually go on the stage. I remember one with to let it snow with basketballs. It was awful, but every year I could not wait for the winter program. As for my first theater production and my first show that I did, outside of winter productions or dance recitals, was a absolute horrible production of The Emperor's New Clothes. It was it's just one of those things that you just pick for a junior high. People knew the title, but it was just a horrible script. And I'll never forget, this was in 7th grade, and I was so upset that I didn't get either the queen or one of the princesses, because I don't know, I was a girly girl, and I assumed that the queen or the princesses in 7th grade, that they had to be like the good parts, because you got to wear the beautiful gowns, and I got cast as the maid. And I remember not being thrilled about getting that part, even through the process. I still didn't hit me that she was a huge integral part of the show, like how big this character was and how privileged I should have been to get that part.
Right.
But it was still about the princess dresses. And then it must have been 2 or 3 years later, my sophomore, junior in high school, where I really started getting involved with theater, where I went back and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Let's pop this in, the VHS. Pop the VHS in and watch this. And I'm like, I was so upset at myself that I never thanked my director for giving me that part, because it was a character with a meat, and it was had a love story, and she really had a lot of levels to her that a couple years later, and even now, I realized, man, there was a reason they gave me that part. It was something I went by Beth back in the day. Beth can handle a character like this in the 7th grade. And so it's just something that's always stuck with me, that I should have been more appreciative of what the part that I gave.
Yeah.
The part that I got. And I try to instill that now in my students now. Hey, it's not about how many lines you have. It's not about, how pretty your princess dress is. It's really about who can handle the meat of a complex character.
Right.
That's something that I learned in 7th grade that I try to instill in my students now.
Right. So what is it that made you fall in love with performing?
Well, I started out, like I said, I grew up in a really small town in Colorado. The only thing that my parents really could afford and driving wise, because it was such a small town, was they went ahead and they put me in dance. But besides that, I didn't have a whole lot of extracurricular activities because it was such a small town. So thank God for my best friend, who's still my best friend today after so many years. We're best friends in the 1st grade. I would take my best friend Andrea, and we would just put on productions at home. I was the director, I was the choreographer, I was the costumer, and she was just my little friend who did everything that I asked her to do. And my mom had one of those really ginormous VHS cameras, the ones that you had to shoulder. And I'm not sure why we ever purchased it. She might have purchased it because she knew that this is what I wanted to do. And we would have rehearsals for like 2-3 days, maybe even a week, of like a performance of I remember doing Mary Poppins and the song from The Parent Trap, all these duet numbers that I would choreograph and direct. And then my mom would break out that ginormous VHS camera and videotape my friend and I doing our little performances. And that started in the first grade. And I swear to God, then I got a sibling, and then my sibling got friends. And so even as a teenager, I would get them together, and I had cousins, and we would do, productions of Footloose and productions of, oh God, what else did we do? Will Rogers Follies was a production I did in high school. So My Favorite Son was something that I put my sister and all her friends across on chairs.
Yeah.
And they're doing this business. So I started off performing and directing just like on my own without even like being in a program, super, super, super young. And I loved it. My grandma was a huge musical person. So I grew up watching The Sound of Music, Singing in the Rain, even small Disney stuff like the number that the two twins do together in the Haley Mills version, where they do Let's Get Together. Like I just watched that part over and over and over again. And then I got a little bit older and I fell in love with Flashdance and Footloose. And these are movies that like I would just, it was those VHS tapes, and they would just get ruined because I would just rewind and play and watching and stealing choreography and trying to do the exact movements that Kevin Bacon is doing in Footloose. So a lot of it started off just with that kind of stuff, just trying to, and I think that helped me in the long run because that was just based off of my own creativity. It wasn't being in a show. Yes, I took my dance classes, but that was like to get my technique. And then I would come home and choreograph a number to a song from David Bowie's Labyrinth. It's just, it was what I loved to do. I wasn't an athlete. I had allergies, so I couldn't play outside. Totally embarrassing thing that I need to say is that to this day, I don't know how to ride a bike. I grew up on, yeah, I cannot ride a bike. I'm a dancer. I can do a turn on one foot, spinning 3 times, but I don't have the balance to ride a bike. I grew up on gravel roads in Colorado. We had no paved roads. The town that I grew up in was so small that you only had to dial the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You didn't have to dial the first 3 because the town was so small. I compare it to South Park a lot, where I grew up in Colorado. And so, and because it was such a small town and a kind of a farm town, we didn't have a neighborhood where there was a lot of kids. There were no kids on my street. There were a bunch of farmers. My best friend that I talked about before, like we couldn't ride our bike or walk to each other's house. Like somebody had to drive the 10 minutes so we could actually see each other. So, and I didn't have my first sibling until I was 8. So I used my imagination a lot growing up. I always was playing pretend. I was playing teacher and playing house, but I didn't have a sibling to play with. And my friends were so far away that it was very, we only got to see each other on the weekends. It wasn't like I could see them after school. So a lot of my time was alone and just using my imagination, once again, thinking that it helped me a lot as an actress. I've been playing pretend all my life, and that's what acting is.
Right. So some questions for you as a director and a choreographer. What was your very first directing job?
Let's see. My very first directorial debut was, let's see. I was living in Chicago, and I was teaching dance at the Skokie Park District. And the artistic director at the Park District said that their director for their shows had decided to move on, and asked if I wanted to direct. And the show was already picked. And so the first show that I directed was Big, the musical.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And what was the first time that you were the choreographer for a show?
So when I lived in New York, um, this was after college, still living in New York. My summers were pretty free, and what I would do, I think I did this for 3 summers in a row, is I would go to a summer camp in Connecticut.
Okay.
And I got hired to do the summer shows, direct the summer shows at these camps, which the very first show was just the staff to open up the kids to their counselors and whatnot. So when the first day the kids got there, the staff would put on a show, and then after that, I think we did it was kind of like summer stock. We would do
right.
3 shows, so those were the first shows that I choreographed. But like I said, I've been choreographing my best friend since I was
right.
in first grade. So, but the actual professional job that I had was at these summer camps in Connecticut.
Okay. And what, if anything, scared you the first time that you had to take on being in charge of an entire show?
It's frightening. Your first time is frightening. I was in my 20s when I got offered to direct Big, and I was a woman, so I was a little freaked out, but I was an actress, so I could hide the fear and go in there. I felt like I had enough experience as an actress to know what needed to happen, and being a dancer and being a choreographer, I told people this many times, I am a picture person. Mm-hmm. I love looking at pretty pictures, whether it's one person on stage or 75. I love pictures. I want that moment to be, man, that's beautiful. And I never thought about it until now. But my dad is a painter. He's an artist. That's all he's done his entire life, raised, his family on his paintings. And thinking about it now, I wonder how much that experience of watching my dad paint and looking at these beautiful pictures of
mm-hmm.
that's a picture that somebody wants to look at on their mantle for years, and just looking at those paintings, how maybe that kind of gave me the knack for really understanding what a beautiful picture is and what people want to watch. So going with my acting experience and my pictures and already being a dancer. So when I directed, right off the bat, the thing that I want to make sure that I like to do is I like to be the choreographer too. I love my assistants, but as a director and a dancer, I find it hard to not do both. I have a vision, so I'm gonna run with that. And because I have been choreographing so long, that part was easy for Big. And then the other thing I did to take away the fear was cast a lot of people I knew.
Yeah.
People who knew me as an actress, so maybe because they knew me as an actress, could trust me as a director.
Right.
People I've done shows with, 3 of my best friends, that's what I did. 4 of my best friends in the show were 4 of my best friends in the show were leads, anywhere from the Baskins to Macmillan, were people that I had worked with before, just to put me at ease a little bit, and people I could trust. If I really sucked as a director, they'd pull their own weight.
Right. Did you get any advice before going in for that first time?
No, I pretty much just got thrown in.
Okay.
But what I did do, I remember specifically doing this, is going back to some of the shows I really enjoyed and some of the shows I thought were really good, and remembering the director and kind of reverting back and being like, okay, what did that director do that really worked? And there's a lot of people that I do, a lot of directors that I look back on that I still kind of use their their technique. Um, One technique that I wanted to make sure that I used is finding that happy medium of being the person in charge, but also as a director, your actors have to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just go in as a director and just like a bat out of hell, and they don't know who you are, I feel like it's really hard to trust your director. So you have to trust your actors, they have to trust your director. So you have to find that happy medium of, yes, I'm the boss, but I trust you to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my actors before the first rehearsal, as a director, I'm going to give you a skeleton. This is the skeleton. It's your job to put all the meat in.
Okay.
I'm just going to give you the very, very basis of where the show is going to go. And then you fill it in with the meat. And that's your job. And I want to see what you can bring to the character. Even with my high schoolers, I very rarely, one of my biggest pet peeves with directors is when they say, well, say the line like this.
Okay.
That's not authentic. And once again, something that I use on a regular basis is the word authenticity. You have to be authentic.
Right.
Say that I say it, you can't say it where it's believable. What's the point?
Right.
So, and you're a director, you get it. Like, authenticity is so important. Yeah. So that was show one. That was what's big. Those were my rules. Give them the skeleton, they bring on the meat, and see what they can bring. Then if there's something that doesn't work, a lot of my actors are like, why are you not giving me notes? Well, I'm not giving you notes until tech week. I want to see what you can bring to the table. Bring me what you can bring. And then what's not working, we'll sit down and talk if I feel like there's something not there. But especially with my high schoolers, they feel like they need me to tell them every single step sometimes. I'm like, I ain't doing it. That's your job. You figure out who this character is.
Great. What did you learn the most from your first time as a director?
One thing that I learned that was hard was, as a director, you're not an actor, and you don't, as much as you get a different relationship with the actors as the director, which I love that relationship that you can have with an actor. You're not part of that group anymore. You're not part of the show. And I had to get used to that. I had to get used to not being part of that, and kind of have to realize, okay, well, they might be talking shit about me on the side because I'm lost and they don't like what I'm doing. That was an adjustment of not being part of the cast. That was something I had to learn.
I actually, the first person that put me in a show, when I had expressed to them that I had an interest in being a director and I asked for advice, the one piece that they gave me that really wasn't advice on how to be a director. They just said, it's a very lonely job. Because no matter what happens, with the exception of a couple of things, it's you. It's on, most people are going to view it on you. And they just said, even when people are your friends, you're going to want to hang out with them and you're going to want to know, but you're going to know, I can't, because they may want to complain about something. And they may want to say things and they're not going to say them around you, and you rob them of that chance. Yeah, no, I completely get that. So.
And then also being the director and the choreographer, I'm robbing myself of somebody I could relate to. So I'm the director. So I always have a very close relationship with my musical director.
Yeah.
So, because it's the two of us. There you go.
Right.
My assistants,
Yeah.
Those are the people that you kind of hang out with. Yeah.
Is there a show that you have directed in the past that you'd love to revisit and maybe do over again?
Yes. I was kind of going through my brain to think if there was another one, but the one that came to mind immediately was Rent.
Okay.
I directed Rent. God, I couldn't even. I'm not even gonna guess the year because I have no clue. But it was at the Skokie Park District. I had directed 4 shows after Big before I did Rent, and it was just a show that was so special to me. Not only because of just the show and the story that it tells, but the people that were cast in this show were so brilliant. And it's a show that to this day I hold so near and dear to my heart. But now we are, I mean, I think it has to be about 10 years since I've directed it. I would really like to see what you could do with that show now, because it was so 90s based that I don't know. Number one, I think I'd like the challenge of to see it. You know, could you still make it as beautiful as it was, say, in the 90s, early 2000s, or is it? Can people still get those feelings because AIDS is such not a big deal today? But also trying to, I would never want to replace the cast I had because they were so brilliant, but to add characters in the right age range in 2020, I don't know. I would like to see what I could do to think out of the box to make that show work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I would take it out of the 90s where it belongs, but could people still get that emotional attachment where AIDS is not such a big thing right now? And I always think about that. It's something that keeps me awake at night. Like, can you still do that show and still have the audience of teenagers and 20s still get the emotion that that show is supposed to bring?
The answer is yes.
I like that answer.
The answer is yes, because we just did it a couple summers ago down here. And this area is a little more, I'll say conservative, so to speak.
Right.
But it was very embraced by our audience members. And I think with a show like that, even when even in any period show, and you can vouch for this, it doesn't matter if the subject matter of the show is still super prevalent to today's society. If the acting's good and people get invested in the character, it doesn't matter if their lives have never been touched by that illness or this social issue in it. If they feel drawn to the character, yeah.
I like that. Sure, we're doing Tine, right?
So, what has been the hardest decision that you have had to make as a director for the good of all involved in a production?
The first thing, I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to mind is kind of what we're dealing with right now. I am the theater director at Lincolnway Central High School, and for the longest time, I did not think a fall play was going to happen. Kids aren't in school, fall sports are not happening, so I'm thinking we had to, unfortunately, my poor high schoolers, their spring musical was canceled, no Little Shop of Horrors. I'm thinking, you know what, Liz, just bite the bullet, the fall play is not going to happen. And then I talked to the activities director at Lincolnway Central, and he says, nope, let's do this, Liz. Let's figure out a way to do this. And I said, all right, let's talk. What are we going to do? And he's like, well, here are the guidelines that you have to go by. Number one, the kids have no audience. Okay, I can deal with that. Fine, virtual, not a problem. Number two, 6 feet apart. Okay, that's another challenge. Number three, they have to wear masks. As a director, that's not what you want to hear.
Right.
As an actor, that's not what you want to hear. This is our instrument.
Yeah.
This is what we use. when this much is covered up, I struggled. I struggled, and I said, okay, I'll figure out something. So I took the summer to think about what we were going to do, and I came back with, all right, virtual, I get, 6 feet apart, I get.
Mm-hmm.
If we did the production outside, 6 feet apart, would the kids have to wear masks? And he got back to me that day. Oh, if you have the production outside, the kids do not have to wear masks. So, did my research. The Lincolnway Central Drama Department will be performing the show Spoon River Anthology.
Okay.
We'll be performing it outdoors during the dusk time, proper lighting, and just performing it on YouTube.
Okay.
So my next challenge was, okay, it's Spoon River Anthology. I need to get high schoolers excited about this. It's just a bunch of monologues. It's in verses, so already they're like, oh my God, this looks like Shakespeare. What is this? And it's monologues. We can't.
Right.
So to get them a little bit excited about it, I have decided to make it a steampunk theme.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have the Renaissance / Victorian of what the show really is, but let's put a little modern twist into it. So even though we're not changing the script at all, their costumes where these high schoolers can have a little fun and bring a steampunk vibe, not only to their characters, but to their costumes, and have a little fun, creative time with that. And that seemed to get the kids, if not excited, interested.
Okay.
That's different. Let's roll with that. So our show just got cast this weekend, and we start rehearsals on Wednesday.
When are you guys performing?
We are performing the evening of October 24th.
Okay. Joliet Drama Guild, where Thomas and I have done shows, they just announced they're doing Spoon River. They're going to be doing it, and I was just pulling it up to make sure. They're doing it outdoor at their band shell, so audience can sit on the hill the 24th, 25th, and 26th of September. A Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm always a fan of, especially for high school students, if there's another production somewhere, go and see it just to see. You guys may want to look into that just because it's a different way of seeing something.
Yes, absolutely. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I had no clue that you guys were doing that. Yeah,
they were looking for things to do in the fall and blah, blah, and they had asked for things, and that's one of the things down here in Kankakee for a few summers in a row, and they stopped because of COVID and everything. They did what we called a cemetery walk. And what they did was you signed up in groups, and then a guide would take you around this one particular cemetery, and at different plots would be an actor representing that person that was buried there. And it was a historical figure to our area.
Very cool.
And I did it the first 2 years and played 2 different people. One of the guys was the man who we have 2 houses in Kankakee that were designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, right next door to each other. And he's part of the family that got that to happen.
Okay.
And then another guy who is the reason that our town had money at all. He was a banker and all that sort of stuff. But people love it because it's history they didn't know, and it's our history sort of a thing. And so I told them that's something to look at. And then I also said, if you guys don't want to do that, and I told them there's a play called Spoon River Anthology, which is essentially the same thing. So, and I said it, and I can't remember who I said it to, and they went, yes. Like, it took them a second to realize, they go, I know that show. And I said, there's really no scene work. It's all monologue pieces and that sort of thing. So
it really is what's going on right now, and needing to stay apart. No, it's the perfect show. It really is. And I was telling my high schoolers, they had never heard of it, and I was telling them, this is how I'm aging myself right now. It was part of, Spoon River Anthology was part of my summer reading in high school. Like, we had to read Spoon River, and it's always been in the back of my head. It was, you just remember some of those books. You're like, I enjoyed it. Maybe I was an actress. I just liked getting to know each of those characters.
So what do you, and speaking, since you said you just had auditions, what do you look for when you're watching people audition?
First off, I look for the basics. Can they project? Can they enunciate? With monologues, are they, do they have that rocking issue that, a lot of new, especially people who haven't been on stage before, they have that nervous tick or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring the word up again, authenticity. Do I believe you? Mm-hmm. Especially with the high schoolers, they if they haven't been on stage before, they pretty much down the board. If they enjoy doing theater and they've been in theater before, but no training, a lot of times it feels pushed. It feels fake. And I feel like through their high school career, from freshman to senior, my job, if they love being on stage and they can enunciate and they have the character, they have that spark to be on stage, that's fantastic. But I need to take them to the next step in being real. Obviously, the character part, that's something a little bit different. That's a new challenge that you have to be authentic, but still play the character.
Yeah.
But it's that authenticity. A lot of times, just this past weekend, the teenagers would do their monologue, and I would say, do it again, but do it imagining the person that you're talking to right in front of you. Stop performing for me. Stop performing, period.
Right.
Don't perform for me. Don't perform for the other people that are at this audition right now. Talk to the person that you're telling this story to. Mm-hmm. And just by saying that, majority of the time changes their monologue drastically for the better when they're just being authentic. And it makes you want to listen. That when you have that performance of a monologue, a lot of times I find myself tuning out. I'm no longer involved when you're performing. Right. Tune out. And when there's a monologue that I realize they start and I was completely committed to them from beginning of the 1-minute monologue to the end, it's because of the authenticity.
Okay. Do you have a favorite production that you have directed?
My favorite production. My brain does go back to Rent because it wasn't a show. It was an experience. Mm-hmm. I think during that show, because of the way I decided to roll, as you know, with the show, if you don't have a connection with your fellow castmates, call it a day.
Yeah.
So that was rule number 1 for me. I had to get these castmates to know each other. So what I did with that is before we started rehearsal every day, I started with a question that we'd have to go around the circle and everybody answer. Something as simple as if you could have a superhero quality, what would it be? Simple as that. But then it got a little bit deeper. What's your biggest fear? What was the time in your life where you felt most ashamed? Has there been a time in your life where you thought nobody knew that you were even, a person, like deep stuff? And what I would do, and I'll never forget this, and I don't know why, I made this rule right off the bat that as a director, I was gonna answer the question first.
Okay.
So they wouldn't have the fear of being open. and I was open. You know, I had plenty of stuff that needed to be said. And that way, maybe if the director opened up, they'd feel comfortable opening up too about some issues that they might have had in their life. And I'll never forget, one rehearsal started at 6 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock was when that question of the circle was fully answered. It took the entire rehearsal. And I want to say it might have been the question of, have you ever been ashamed of anything? And that's a deep question.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you would think, would be very hesitant about opening up about that. And it took the whole night. And I'll never forget sitting there in the dance studio, us in a circle, and we're all just a wreck. We're just bawling. And after that rehearsal, there was a change in the cast. You saw the characters come together. You saw trust each other more on stage. I remember we had a really wonky table that we had to dance on for La Vie Boheme. And people were like, we're getting on this wonky table. We're doing it. We can get on. We're going to dance on this table because nobody's going to let me fall.
Yeah.
And it was, and it's stuff like that I'll never forget. So that one, I hold near and dear to my heart. As for shows that I loved being at rehearsal every day and having so much fun, was when I did Footloose at Lincolnway Central.
Okay.
And, it was just an amazing cast. It was just one of those shows that we could have opened after 2 weeks of rehearsal. Like it was just there. And so to have that time to just have fun and just keep building off of what I thought was already brilliant was a lot of fun. I had a super talented cast, and I went some trials and tribulations with Footloose because of the conservativeness of the New Lenox area and some of the things that Footloose dealt with. But even with that being said, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. That's how much I really enjoyed doing that show.
Good. So some questions for you as an actress. What is your favorite role that you have played?
It's so crazy to say, I think, because I went to New York to major in musical theater. I'm a dancer. I do musical theater. But as I've gotten older and become a director, and being a dance teacher, and my voice not being what it is because I'm constantly yelling over music and whatnot, I have to say that Maggie the Cat and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is just a show and a character that I'll never forget and cherish always. Okay. So that was once again, I'm really bad with years and dates. I don't even know what year that was. It was my first show with the drama group, and it was a show that they were bringing to the stables in England. By the way, I just have to throw it out there, the most brilliant program that I have ever worked with. I've got to go to England twice with this program, and what drama group puts together so we can perform in England is just remarkable. Mm-hmm. And the relationships that I've made overseas and whatnot. But the first show that I did take there was Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. So number one, the challenge of Maggie the Cat. And number two, being my first show, I did not know anybody in this show. I did not know. I knew the directors just a little bit, but Regina Gadati and Mary Ellen Buck and Andy Leahy. I did not know these people. I just kind of walked in and scary. It's scary. And you go to these auditions, and these people know each other. They know each other. Yeah. They're good. You don't know. I mean, Regina and I were not auditioning for the same part, but you see that woman on stage and you're just like, oh, damn. Yeah. I can't be on stage with her. And then you see Mary Ellen Falk as Big Mama. And she's just kind of like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
No way I'm getting this part. And I did. And it was intimidating. It really was. And also having the part of Maggie the cat and that first act. Oh my God. I don't memorize well. I'll be the first to admit it. I struggle memorizing lines. I always have. And that first act is like a 45-minute monologue.
Yeah.
So it was scary. I'll never forget that I was really struggling with it. Anxiety was kind of like taking over, and MJ Resnick, who was the director, thank God he trusted me and was like, Liz, you got this. You're gonna get these lines memorized. Don't worry. My husband got me a hotel room. I mean, this is before Jack. This is before kids. But I needed to get away from the house, get away from the world for a little bit. Got me a hotel room for a full weekend. And he said, do not leave that room until that first act is memorized.
Yeah.
So 78 hours in the Holiday Inn in Matson.
Yeah.
I finally learned and memorized the first act. So that was challenging. But then when I found her, when I found Maggie, when I figured out who she was and who I wanted to make her, and then respecting my actors so much who I was on stage with, and then becoming their friend and realizing that, yes, I can do this. I can be on stage with these amazing people and we can have a fantastic show. When that clicked, when the cast came together and became one, and I found Maggie, that was it. There was no going back, and it was a brilliant experience.
So let me actually jump back because I forgot to ask you a question. And this is on the choreographer side.
Okay.
When you are going to choreograph a song, when you are listening to it, do you instantly see things that come to mind, moves that you go, okay, I'm putting that in there, and now I've just got to almost like, this to this, glue those pieces together sort of a thing. As you had kind of said before, when you were younger, you just watch what other people do. I'm a big person on believing that when it comes to theater nowadays, the name of the game is not everything is 100% original. You do steal little things, that sort of thing. Go, oh, I love that. I don't want to change it. But I have never, I choreographed a few shows for a high school, and because I already knew them, I didn't really have to sit there and think too much, and I already knew, okay, this is the style, that sort of thing. But I always get interested in hearing choreographers when they go, here's the music for a song. When they listen to it, does it just appear in their mind? They see this, like you said, this painting sort of happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I see the picture. So I'll never forget, I was living in my New York City apartment, and I had two roommates, and we listened to music all the time, theater music. One of them was a country fan. We listened to, this is the 90s, so we listened to NSYNC and Britney Spears, and music was always playing. And I'll never forget the three of us just kind of sitting in the living room listening to, it was a country song. I don't remember what country song it was. And one of my roommates started crying. And I was like, I said, Lauren, I go, what's wrong? She's like, it's the story that this song tells. I'm like, oh, it's a country song. Musical theater is one thing. I listen to the story, but with a country song, I'm like, oh, I don't even know what the story is. And she goes, well, why? Like, or what do you, when you're listening to the song, what are you doing in your head? Like, we're just sitting here listening to music. What is your head doing? Why are you not focusing on the story? And I look at her and I go, I'm choreographing it. Aren't you?
Yeah.
I assume that's what everybody did.
Yeah.
I assume anybody who's done anything in theater, when they listen to a song, they're choreographing a dance. like I'm 19 years old. I honestly believed that everyone, when they listen to music, they're choreographing a dance in their head. I did not know that that wasn't just part of everybody's brain.
Right.
So that was kind of a really huge moment where I'm like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
That's, yeah, okay. So yes,
Yeah.
any song I hear, there is a, whether it's has a Latin vibe and I'm choreographing a tango, which I know very little about, but I still have these visions in my head, to you know, anything from Post Malone to the soundtrack of Oklahoma. If I'm in my car, if I'm listening to music and I'm not working on something specific at that time, that's what I'm doing. That's what my head does. It just goes there and choreographs. So when you ask, you know, how do I choreograph? Number one, yes, the style is very important. I very rarely work away from the style. I like thinking out of the box, but my phrase is if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Right.
So, you know, I choreograph a chorus line. Okay, I'm gonna keep da 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 da. That's what people want to see. That's just it. And then from the style and pieces that just I think like just are just wrong to change, and I take those and I go from there.
Now, do you think sometimes of, if you're doing a period show, do you think of, okay, who were the choreographers of that time, and maybe styling? I think of that when I say, for example, reading the book of lyrics by Sondheim. He talks about when he wrote Follies, he wanted to write the music in one person's style of composing music and the lyrics in a different person that made sense to that song, or if that makes sense. You know, I'm going to write this as if it was, the music was written by Irving Berlin, but the lyrics are by somebody totally different.
Yeah.
Do you sit there and think, okay, if this is going to be this period, one of the big choreographers was, you know, Jerome Robbins, or this big one at that time would have been, you know, Fosse, or, you know, one of those people that you go, okay, I want to do it in that style because that makes sense for that time period.
Absolutely. Every single show.
Okay.
Every single show.
Now, within that same thing of keeping in style, do you go and see shows and sometimes go, well, that doesn't, you know, not that you're going to point it out, but do you think you look at it and you go, well, that wouldn't make sense for that time period? You know, you're not going to go and see something like Thoroughly Modern Millie in the 20s and see dance movements that make more sense for, you know, disco era. God, I hope that never happens. I also would like to see that happen, but right? So, oh, okay. I guess, yeah, sure, that works. Do you have sometimes? Do you do that when you go and see shows and go, that's not the right time period? And okay, all right.
But it's tough sometimes. You know, as a director and a choreographer, it's tough sometimes to see theater that's not good. It's tough to sit through. So yeah, it is tough unless you know what, I feel like it depends on the show. Yes, the very period shows. Unless the whole show you're thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of revivals now. Jesus Christ Superstar. There are a lot of the revivals. You can go out of the box, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, the period that it's in. But with, you know, to keep it interesting, to keep these younger minds going to theater, you do have to modernize everything, from costumes to choreography and whatnot. Another one that comes to mind is Joseph. Like, you can have fun.
Yeah.
Without taking away the integrity of the show and the period of the show that it takes place.
Right.
I feel there's many shows that you can like, man, go out of the box, have fun, think out of the box, and that's what's going to make the best production. But I also think that there's shows that you should not touch period wise and mess with the period of the dance that it's in. Also, going to my dance experience, my challenge with my competitive dancers is doing stylized dancing at the competitive level. Bob Fosse's choreography is very, very difficult, and done right, it takes hours and hours of practice. And let's see, my performance group, my senior performance group, did cell block tango. Once again, bad with years. Probably about 8 years ago, they did cell block tango, and I needed to keep that Fosse vibe.
Right.
It doesn't work if you don't have Fosse. But it was a competitive dance. Now, even though competitive dance doesn't have guidelines, they're there. They may not be written,
Right.
but you need to have your double pirouette. You need to have your leg holds. You need to have your calypsos. You need to have your firebirds. All these, I hate to say it, but all these tricks that you need to have. Not a good dance. That's not what I'm saying. You don't need those things to have a good dance. You need to have those for a competitive dance to score well.
Right.
So that I find sometimes is more of a challenge when I'm with just my dancers, of doing that style of dance, keeping the integrity of the style, but making sure that I choreograph it properly to make sure that we score well at competition.
Right. Right. So we'll jump back to the actress part again. Is there a role that has gotten away? That you think there's no chance I'll ever get to play that now?
Nothing is coming to mind. The one role that I want to play, I think I might be on the verge of aging out on, but I've always wanted to play Adelaide. That is, so I think I might be on the cusp of Adelaide. I think, she has to be a little bit older. She's not a teenager, but she has to be a little bit older. So you see that struggle that she has of not being married.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any younger, so I have to make sure that I can still hold that character strong, not only voice-wise but dance-wise also.
Yeah.
That I don't look like an old lady playing Adelaide, but so she's the first one that comes to mind that I feel like I'm on the cusp, and I better find a director soon who wants to do Guys and Dolls.
Yeah.
So, I can play that part. Musical theater, as I've gotten older, has become a little more difficult because I'm not the young, cheeky chorus girl anymore. I love being in the chorus in musicals. I'm a dancer. Throw me, front and center with a dance number, and I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. My characters are limited because I do not, I'll be the first to admit, I do not have a gorgeous voice. I will never play an ingenue. I never have played an ingenue. I don't have that beautiful vibrato. I don't have a voice that people are like, oh, I could listen to her all day. It's usually that voice of like, okay, one song and she's done. But I can play the character roles. I can, as a director once told me, Liz, you scream on pitch beautifully.
Wow.
I wasn't sure how to take that, but he's right.
Yeah.
I can scream on pitch. I have a natural nasal nanny, very forward voice in my speaking and in my singing voice. It's all like right there. So those character roles are what fits my voice. Acting wise, I feel like I have a little more room, but for musical theater, it's very limited because of my voice, my character voice. That's all I really have. So that's why kind of Adelaide is like, she might be my last hurrah, because there's not many. I feel like there's not many older characters that have that kind of feeling. They're getting softer. So if you know anybody who wants to do a production of Guys and Dolls, yeah, they're Adelaide.
So the next question was, is there a dream role you haven't played yet? But would you say that would be it?
Yeah.
Unless there's a dream role in a play that you'd like to do.
That's where my brain was going. Musical wise, yes, absolutely Adelaide. I'd also like to give Velma Kelly a try while I still have the flexibility and the voice to do her, because Candor and Eb, thank you for making roles for altos. Thank you. But they're, lead roles for altos are very few and far in between. So Velma Kelly is one.
See, I could see you doing either. I could see you doing Roxy as well.
And I would love Roxy too. Roxy, I feel like I might be aging out of a little bit faster. But yeah.
I feel like Roxy is more of a, as you would say, a more meaty acting role. And Velma, while it's got great stuff, it's a bigger dancing piece.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see you doing either one.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring up Roxy, because when I think of Roxy, I think of, what's the gun song?
Both Reach for the Gun?
Yes. And the puppet.
Yeah.
I would love that challenge one day. I would love that challenge to really, when I first saw Chicago, the first time I saw it was in New York, and I saw Mary Lou Retton as Roxy.
Okay.
I was flabbergasted by her performance in that song.
Uh-huh.
She had me believing she was an effing puppet. I'm brand new in New York. It's one of my first shows that I get to see, and I had to stay afterwards and talk to her, because I'm not one of the theater goers that waits backstage a lot, but I had to tell her how brilliant she was in that one song, and I will never forget her performance. And I always wanted a shot at that. I always, Roxy in general, I love her. But it's that one song that I'd really like to give a shot and see if I can pull off a marionette a little bit.
Yeah. So this is a three-part question.
Okay.
What role have you found to be the most difficult?
I played Kate McGowan in the musical Titanic.
Okay.
She's also one of my favorites. Very, very meaty character. And it's funny that I bring her up, because it's going back to when I played the maid in my junior high production. Kate McGowan is very similar in the musical Titanic. She's not a huge role, but that woman's got meat. She's a pistol. She's sparky, and I loved her. So I really wanted to make her something special. So because I loved her so much,
yeah,
I really wanted to work hard at her. So not only the meatiness of her character and her being pregnant on the Titanic, not having a father for her child, getting that character across, the meat of her, but her being a strong Irish woman with an authentic Irish accent. I wasn't messing around with that either. And you know what? The challenge with Titanic was that not everybody in the show had an Irish accent. You know, when you do an Irish show or an English show, you fall into
Yeah.
how other people are talking. Not in this show.
Right.
It was the gentleman who played against me who had the Irish accent. So though that worked, but I had many. Oh, and the two sisters. The two sisters also had the Irish accents, but everybody else in the show was either American or English or whatnot. So
Right.
we had to grasp onto these English accents ourselves without falling into an English. If you were having a dialogue with somebody who's an English accent and not falling into it, keeping that authentic Irish accent. But then also, you know, I said I don't have a beautiful voice. She's not a caricature, so I had to find the prettiest voice I had and sing solos. And I have to say, you know, I've played Val and Chorus Line and Audrey and Little Shop. They're all that right here, and she might be the only one that I actually had a role in that was not the character voice that I'm so used to doing. So that was a challenge. So yeah. She was the most difficult, but also one that I missed when the show closed. It was one that I'm like, oh, I miss Kate McGowan. She was a good girl. I liked her.
Which role have you found to be the most fun?
I did have a lot of fun with Audrey from Little Shop. She was fun. I loved the challenge of Audrey in trying to make such a character role authentic. Mm-hmm. She's a real person. Audrey's got meat. She's got a lot of meat to her, but it's a little more challenging because people know her as ditzy blonde, that you have to keep that, I want to say, facade going, where in reality, that's not who she is.
Right.
But it's a fun role. I really enjoyed playing Kitty in Drowsy Chaperone.
Okay.
That's it. That's all she is. She's just fun. She's not meaty. You don't need meat to play Kitty. So it was just, I enjoyed going on stage. I enjoyed dancing. I enjoyed having fun. I enjoyed making people laugh at Kitty and not worried about the meat with her at all. Just going out there and having a good time.
Which role that you played did you find the most rewarding?
Maggie the cat. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I think performing it in England, when you're over there, they make you feel like a rock star. And the work that I put into it, I felt was appreciated.
What has been your greatest accomplishment as an actress?
Memorizing Act 1 of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Let's see. I don't know. I think maybe my biggest accomplishment was my first. Either my first professional production. I was cast as a hotbox dancer in Guys and Dolls, and that was my first professional production. When you get cast in your first professional, that's why when you kind of open your eyes and go, oh, maybe I can do this. And I was in high school, so I'm like, oh, maybe this is something I want to do the rest of my life. So that was a huge accomplishment to get my first professional show as a senior in high school. But also going to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York and graduating from there and kind of like looking back and the work that you have to put into when you go to a conservatory. I have to say graduation day was pretty special to graduate from a conservatory like that.
Okay. What role taught you the most as a person?
say, as crazy as it sounds, I got cast in my high school production of The Sound of Music. And I was a senior. And I got cast as a nun. There's no dancing. I'm not a singer. I didn't get a part. I wanted to quit because I felt like there was nothing for me in that show.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it. I kept going. I did the show. And that made me realize, number one, my passion for theater. I'll do anything to be on stage. But also now can tell my students it's not about the part. It's about going on stage and feeling the lights and doing the best of the character that you were given. And what can you make out of that character? Whether you like that character or not, whether you like the part or not. If you are a true performer,
Mm-hmm.
you will make the best out of whatever's given you. And I tell my kids that. You may be tree number 14. You better be the best tree number 14 you can possibly be. And I think that's the show that I learned, that as much as I was so disappointed, in high school, it's hard. All my friends either was Maria or got one of the kids. I was up for the Bernice and didn't get it. And all my theater friends, because they're seniors too at this point. They're up there. And here I am a senior, where I've gotten bigger parts freshman, sophomore, junior year. And senior year, I got cast as a nun. It was hard. But it also made me realize how much I love theater and how strong I was.
Yeah.
And that's the day where I was like, give me anything. Put me on stage.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. Put me on stage. That is a true actor. Put me on stage. I'll do it.
As an actress, what are your favorite attributes of a good director?
Trustworthiness of their actors. Trust your actors. I feel like it's your job as a director to cast properly and then trust the actor to do what they need to do with that character.
Okay.
I'm all about absolutely, giving notes, what's working, that picture's working, that picture's not. But you, especially in the community theater world, professional world, high school is a little bit different because you're still in training. You're training your students. But when you're working with grown adults, trust your actors. Trust them and let them do what they need to do. And then from there, give them the notes that they need to along the way. But you need to let your actor find their character first.
Yeah. So this is another sort of three-part, and one of them you've sort of already answered. But what are your biggest pet peeves as a director about actors?
I deal with this more with the high schoolers, egos. The egos, I try to nip in the bud right away. I don't have time for this. All right, and like I said, every part is important, including tree number 14. And laziness. And I told my students and my dancers this 1.5 million times. I don't care what good of an actor or dancer you are. I will take a person who's passionate and will work hard over the most talented actor or dancer any day of the week. And you can quote me on that 500,000 times. You put your work into it and you have the passion and the spark to really give it your all, I'll take that over talent any day of the week.
Okay.
I don't like laziness.
What is your biggest pet peeves about actors as an actress? Or would it be the same?
Egos.
Egos, okay.
Egos. When I'm on stage with somebody, we need to work as a team. Once again, I tell my high schoolers this all the time. This is a team. This is no different than a basketball team or a soccer team or a football team. We need to work together. And when egos get in the way, that's when it pisses me off.
Yeah. So this one you've kind of already answered, but what is your biggest pet peeves about directors as an actress?
Directors that don't trust me.
Okay.
So pretty much the same answer.
So if a show was created about you, who would play the lead?
Oh, that's funny. I like that one. Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I don't know who else. Wait, okay. Hold on. Let me think about this. She's the first person who comes to mind. Yeah, I guess I got nobody else.
That's not a bad choice. I don't think that's a bad choice. So you mentioned, you had to get a hotel room to learn your lines. What is your approach to learning lines?
Oh, I do everything that's written in the book. I start with note cards. Note cards are my first go-to. Once I have a grasp on the note cards, I start writing my lines out. That seems to help a lot. And then after I write the lines out, I go into the recording, where I record my partner's lines, and then I can fill in my own. So those are my three go-tos.
Okay. Do you have any pre-performance rituals, either as an actress or a dancer, things that you have to do before it's time to go on?
Yes. Not necessarily for myself, but as a director and as a dance teacher, choreographer, I may seem old school. I am a huge believer in the circle. It's the energy that you have in a circle, and that you can make eye contact with all your classmates or castmates or all your fellow dancers. Like it's that team that you can be in that circle, and you feel that energy and you thrive off of that energy. Another trick that I do on, say, a Sunday matinee that may not be the last show, that maybe the energy might be a little low. What I like to do is I like each cast member, when we spend a little bit more time in circle, each cast member to tell the circle their favorite part of the show, whether it's a line or a dance or a character choice. It seems to pep up the cast, because a lot of times somebody will mention a part in the show about somebody else, and they're like, oh, you like that part? It's just like sometimes the smallest parts.
Yeah.
And it seems to get the energy pumped up. Like, yeah, let's go do this. I'm going to say that line really good today because that person mentioned that line that I say in that way. And I always use that little trick on the nights that the energy might seem a little low.
Okay. If you had a magic wand to end all of the COVID pandemic, what show would you want to start rehearsals on?
Good question. As an actress, choreographer, or director?
Give me all three.
Okay. choreography, Chicago.
Okay.
Performance-wise, get Adelaide out of the way. I'm going to say guys and dolls. And directing.
Little Shop?
You know what? Oh, God, Little Shop.
I mean, that's been the answer for some of the people who were in the middle of rehearsals.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's get those kids a performance. Let's do it. Yeah.
In your opinion, what makes a good play or a good musical?
The writing. The
Okay.
writing of the script. I believe that with plays, musicals, and movies. I believe that 100,000,000%. I don't care what kind of editor you have, what kind of actors you have, what kind of talent you have, how good the music is, how good the choreography is. If you don't have a good book that can keep my attention, then I don't want to see it. So yeah, the writing.
Is there a novel or a movie that you love that you wish someone would adapt into a stage musical, and why?
Yeah, the funny thing is I don't know how many people will have heard of this book. It's a book that my mom gave me when I think maybe I was like a freshman in high school. It's called Cold Sassy Tree.
Okay.
And it's about a small southern town. I don't remember what state it's in, but it's just the beautiful aspect of a family, and it's very, very touching. It's about a grandfather who loses his wife and marries a woman much, much, much younger than him, and it's just all about acceptance. But it's funny. They got these, the grandkids who, play mean tricks on her. But then one of the grandkids has a crush on her, and it's just endearing. I fully enjoyed that book, and it's a book that I read over and over again called Cold Sassy Tree, and I would love to see that turn into a stage play. As for a musical, I would love to see someone come up with the concept and I'm magic wand of the appropriateness of the musical Pulp Fiction.
Okay, that would be interesting.
Right?
God, I don't know how you would do that, but that could be interesting.
It makes the brain think. Like, how can we pull that off? Yeah.
Yeah.
You see the Pulp Fiction, the musical.
That would be, and that would be very interesting. What sort of stories inspire you as an actress?
Like I said with the book, endearing. I like endearing stories. I like shows that make me cry. I like, kind of going back to like with movies and film, and how important it is with how important the writing is. I always say I love movies and plays that make me do three things: make me laugh, make me cry, make me think.
Okay.
And if you can do those three aspects, then I'm a happy camper. Just in like this last like Oscar season, I thought they did a really good job. Jojo Rabbit, The Peanut Butter Falcon, movies like that are endearing, make me laugh, make me cry, and make me think afterwards.
Yeah. Have there been any big onstage flubs over the years that maybe weren't funny at the time or were, but you look back on it now and you just, you can't help but laugh over and over?
Okay. I should have seen this one coming. Oh, God. Okay. Here we go. So I am playing Irma in Anything Goes.
Okay. Moonface's girl.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Again, you know, the sidekick.
Yeah.
The character. Oh God. So we are performing Anything Goes, the tap number. Irma is a little bit on the flirty, sassy, sexy side. And the director wanted me to be a little more well endowed with my costume. He just wanted a little cleavage, you know, which I don't hate. I'm a dancer, flat chested. So we needed, the costumer needed to kind of pump me up a little bit. So I don't know who's familiar with these, but they have what I call Victoria's Secret chicken patties.
Yes.
Okay, so you're from, they're like silicone breasts that you
Yes.
just
Yep.
shove in your bra. So I have this super padded bra, and the customer shoves in these chicken patties. And we're in these, if this is Anything Goes, so we're in these little tie tube top type costumes, like belly showing and everything. So I'm pumped up, but I have to make sure that the padded bra is not showing. So customers making sure that everything's in place. Everything is going great until we do Anything Goes. And we have to do triple time steps. And during the triple time steps, there's a lot of bouncing going on. And I'm dancing, having a great old time. And all of a sudden, my best friend in the show, she's doing the triple time steps right next to me. And I hear her laughing. Like, this is a performance. Like, what is she laughing at? So at the corner of my eye, I look over. And as I look over at her, she looks down. And there's a chicken patty on the stage. And as that chicken patty's on the stage, I see that chicken patty fell out this way, but the other one is falling out from underneath as I'm tapping. It was the show that my boyfriend's friends came to. They're sitting, no joke, first or second row, and they are doubled over. I can't see faces anymore in that first or second row because they're all like this and hitting each other, laughing so hard. I mean, I can see that. They're literally crying because of these chicken patties that have fallen. I keep dancing. I stop singing. I can't stop laughing. As much as I tell my kids, do not break character, I couldn't help myself. No. I could not. I am laughing hysterically, time steps, and then people are trying to avoid them during formation changes the rest of the song because they're just there. Then, if Anything Goes, end of Act 1, the curtain closes. They're on the other side of the curtain. So they take the stage manager with a push broom and sweep my chicken patties off the stage during intermission. There's my story.
Now, this had not happened in any dress rehearsals?
Those puppies stayed in all dress rehearsals.
All right.
Oh, I do have to tell one more because Regina would be really mad at me if I didn't.
Okay.
One more. I'll be quick about this one. We're in England. I'm nervous. Maggie the cat. First act is coming. The stage manager at the stables, God love him, is scarier than hell. Frank, I love Frank now, but he scared the hell out of me. So I'm very nervous. This is the first dress rehearsal for Cat on a Hat to Roof. But for dress rehearsals, they bring in some of the board members of the stables to watch the dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
So I'm super nervous. Frank, the stage manager, is like, he's very precise. Like in England, you do not go on a second late. So I'm ready to go. I'm in my peach dress, ready to go, which I take off halfway or like 3 minutes into the first act. I take off the dress and I'm in my slip. Show starts. I'm nervous as hell. This is, performing for the English. And I start unbuttoning my dress and I stop cold. I don't know what to do because I don't have my slip on. I totally forgot to put my slip on. So I'm only in a white bra and a white thong. I can't take this dress off in front of the English.
Yeah.
So MJ is at the top, because I freeze. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And like what seemed like an hour, I'm sure it was like 30 seconds. He's like, Liz, you okay? I forgot my slip. And there's Regina on the other side of the stage. I see her backstage. And she is ready with my slip, like to go head first, like a bull. So he's like, go off stage, get your slip on. I run over there, I put my slip on, and we have to start the show all over again. But yeah, in front of the English, that was super embarrassing.
Okay. What do you think are some of the most important lessons that theater teaches?
Teamwork, working as a team, working with your scene partners. Connections on stage are so important, that you, even if you don't like your scene partners, it's like a job. You hear parents tell kids, teachers tell kids, you're not going to like everybody you work with. I think it's a huge eye opener to be like, okay, you know what? I may not like the person I'm working with. I may not have a connection with the person I'm working with, but I have to make the best out of this situation. Especially with like a production staff, you're not going to like every director. You're not going to like every choreographer, but guess what? You're not going to like every boss either. Mm-hmm. So you roll with the punches and you do what you do for the love of theater.
Yeah. Is there anything within the theater world that you wish you were better at?
Singing. I wish I was a better singer. I think if I had the pipes that I needed to have to do this professionally, I think in every other aspect, I might have been able to get by with my dancing ability, with my acting ability, not to sound cocky in any way, but those abilities I felt I was always very strong at. Singing wise, unfortunately, I think held me back a lot in my career.
Do you desire to be known for what you do or who you are, and why?
Oh, who I am. Absolutely. I want people to remember me as an educator, so I guess that's what I am, but it's how I educate as a person that I'm hoping that I'm touching younger lives with my dancers and with my high schoolers at Central, not to remember me as a director, but hopefully remembering me to make them a better performer and maybe a better person.
Okay. And we will end the interview with a slightly modified questionnaire created by Bernard Pivot. What is your favorite musical?
Chicago.
What is your least favorite musical?
Into the Woods.
I love it. I'm supposed to be working on it next year, but no, it's fine. What is your favorite play?
Sorry?
What is your favorite play?
A View from a Bridge.
Least favorite play?
Our Town.
Okay. What is your favorite word?
Fuck.
What is your least favorite word?
Hate.
What sound or noise do you love?
The sound of a double pullback.
Of a what?
A double pullback. The tap term.
Okay.
I'll send it to you one day. It's really
Oh,
cool.
okay. What sound or noise do you hate?
A 4-year-old whining.
What profession, and we'll count you as a dance teacher, director, choreographer, actress, all as your profession. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
A dolphin trainer.
Interesting. What profession would you not like to do?
I don't think I could bartend again. Don't think I could do it.
Okay. And our final question, if an afterlife exists, what would you like to hear when you get there?
My grandma and grandpa's voice.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope you got a little bit of theater in your life, and thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed some of Liz's insights and stories, and we will be back again next week with another episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.